This conference will now be recorded.
So in our previous class, we were discussing about PZ dynasty, right? So PZ, all the properties, all the OOTP properties which starts with PZ, those are just meant for system usage only. So PZ dynasty will be one of the unique thing for every instance. For the work object IDs, PZ dynasty definition will be this one: instance class space class key. And for any other rule, it should be of this derivation definition. So instance class space, rule class space, class key, and timestamp. Based on this, we can able to identify our instance class also. PZNSK can able to achieve in three different ways, that is with shift F8 or view XML, and we can able to just identify the same in the database table also. For every table will be like having the records, and each and record should be considered one of the instance. No? So for that, for every table should be PZNSK, there should be one column called PZNSK. You can able to see. So in the work table also, beside PZ PV stream, will be having this column called PZNSK. You can able to identify. So this is what we have discussed. And now let us discuss about work object status. After this, we'll discuss about obj open by handle. Okay, so we shall discuss about work object status. Suppose if I'm running this flow, and if it is got stuck somewhere, got stucking meaning, so if the user is trying to raise a credit card request for one of the user, then after he is collecting all the information, next thing what he has to do, it has to be gone for his manager approval. Okay, if the manager is also approving, then it might be going for some other approvals. So ultimately there will be cases where cases where we have to have the status for each and everything. If it is still pending at the manager, then whenever customer who is applying for the credit card, if he's calling us, we have to say him like your credit card has been approved or rejected, or it's still pending with the manager. So this kind of status has to be mentioned. So if we just provide this kind of status, then it will be very easy for the tracking purpose. So that is the reason each and every shape which will be acting like a single step of transaction. So this is the whole transaction, starting from start shape to end shape will be considered as a whole transaction. And in between, I can able to have this particular assignments routed for the manager for the approval, or I can able to have this routed to my supervisor. Likewise, if they are approving or rejecting, finally, if all the things should be closed, then only work object will be closed. Okay, so in between, if it is pending with someone, if I want to get it tracked, then we have to provide stats for each and everything. Let me run the work object ID now. So if I'm trying to create the work object ID, we can able to see the default status showing as new. So beside work object ID, it is showing something like new. What is the new here? New is the status of this particular work object. I might be having some 10 screens, and each and every screen I can able to have different status. So based on that status, it will be very easy for the tracking purpose. I can able to say that work object is pending at customer details section, or work object is pending at manager approval, or manager has rejected this. So in order to have this tracking purpose, we can able to define status for each and every work object. So each and every shape, assignment shape. Okay, so this is just for the recommendation. PRPC just recommends us, and we will, if we are not giving the status for each and every assignment shape also, there is no issues, it will be working fine. So by default, if we just go to any of the assignment shape, so this is the first one and this is the second one, everywhere we are seeing the status as new only. Ultimately, this is the status what PRPC will be showing for that particular work object ID. If you are in the screen number 1, 2, or 3, or if I'm trying to have this submitted, then if it is going for manager approval also, even if he is logged in with his ID there, this particular work object ID status will be showing as the new only. Why? Because we are not defining status for each and every assignment. If you are defining status for each and every assignment, it will be having its own status, then it will be very easy for the tracking perspective. So that we'll discuss now. Okay. So here flow, this is one of the transaction, and each and everything will be acting like one step of transaction. So if I'm just completing first step, if I'm going for the second step, so that will be understandable only by the developer. So developer can able to open the work object ID, and he can able to say that work object ID is the second screen or third screen. But real users will not be understanding. Real users will not be having technical knowledge, right? And even real managers will not be having technical knowledge. And finally, they are the members who will be dealing with the real users. real customers also, and they will be in a position to tell the status of the particular work object ID. So that is the reason for each and every status or each and every assignment shape we can able to provide the status. If you are not providing any of the status, PRPC will be taking status as new for all the work object IDs. Okay, if I'm having 10 screens, if my last 4 screens are routed to my different managers everywhere, if it is getting rejected at the third manager, then I should be in a position saying like uh, 2 managers has been approved and third has been pending or rejected. So if I'm not having the status defined for each and every assignment shape, then I will not be in a position to track it. So for that, what I have to do, I have to just log in as a developer and I have to just check whether section 1 is completed, 2 is completed, or 3 has been routed to manager. He's maybe rejecting or approving. So these kind of things will not be possible in the real cases. So for that, we will be going for defining of work object status. Okay. So by default, if you are not giving any of the work object status, it will be showing as new. Got my point? So did you understand the thing what we are trying to discuss now? So now I'll show you how to add the work object status for each and every assignment shape. And if you're missing to add work object status for one of the assignment shape, suppose if I'm assigning the status for the first assignment one and the second one, and if I'm trying to miss this, sorry, if I'm trying to miss giving work object status for the third one, so what will be the status here, and what will be the status of fourth one? And if there is one more assignment shape and that has to be routed for the manager, if it is getting routed for the manager, he should not be having that screen visible. Only for the manager login he has to get it. So that kind of thing we'll discuss now. So in order to add this particular status that is like new, which is taking as default, okay, we can able to do at each and every assignment shape. So if I double click on this particular assignment shape, then if you scroll down under advanced tab, there will be something called case status. Okay, what should be the case status? So let me, so this is in the version number 1, right? Version number 1 is completely locked off. I cannot able to make any modifications to this. For that, I should be save asing this to second version. So even in the real time also, if you are in a requirement, so if you're in a prospect to make any kind of modifications to the logged rule set, then what we can do is we can able to click on private edit. If I just click on private edit, there will not be any impact in the production or anywhere. This is just for your testing purpose. You can able to make any modifications and you can just simply discard it. You cannot able to check in also. Okay, so most of the people will be hesitating to click on private edit and make their changes. They might be thinking that their changes will be reflected somewhere or not. It will not be reflected. It will be just reflected only with your operator login. So if you want to add assignment status to this particular assignment, then I can able to add it here. So scroll down under advanced tab, there will be something called assignment details. So expand this, and here there will be something called case status. Okay, if I click on down arrow, I can able to see all the OOTB case status. So if we can able to give this as a completed, meaning in the second screen only we can able to mark this as completed, which is not correct. So if it is in the pending status, we can able to provide. If we want to give the customized work object status also, we can able to give this. So these are all the OOTB work object status. Okay, so if I just add it something like pending here, let us say I'm clicking on submit, so I'm saving it. So this flag we can able to see, right? Based on this flag we can able to understand that there is some status assigned to this particular assignment shape. That is the thing. Now let me create new work object ID. Okay, what is the status it is showing now here? Pending, right? So the thing what I have assigned here, I'm getting reflected there. Now if I click on submit button, where I have not given any of the status to the second assignment shape, if I just click on submit button, what it is showing? It is still showing as pending only. If I click on submit button, so all the time it is getting the same value. Suppose let me add the new status for this one. I'm trying to add something like pending approval. So where we will be using this for the manager approval status. So I'm submitting this, save on. So run the new work object ID. So by default for the first assignment shape, we are giving the status as this one. Okay, on clicking on submit button, where we have not given any status to the second assignment shape, what it is showing, the work object status for the second shape is still showing as pending, meaning the first one only. If I click on submit, what it is showing, it is showing the work object status what I have defined there. If I just click on submit again, it is still showing the same, meaning if you are not defining any of the status, it will be picking up the previous current work object status. Okay, the thing here is, if you are trying to run any of the work object ID, there should be one OOTB property to hold this value. If I'm running this, I'm getting value as pending. So click on clipboard. So the OOTB property which will be responsible for holding this particular work object status is PY status work. This is also very important. So under PY work page, there will be one column called PY status work. You can able to see. So this is one OOTB property which will be holding the value of the current work object status. So what is the current work object status now? Pending. Now if I click on submit button, meaning if I just click on submit button, this particular assignment has to be loaded. Initially flow action has to be loaded, then after this section has to be loaded. I mean here. So after clicking on submit button, this has to be loaded. And here on clicking on submit button, this will be loaded, and this is not overwriting any of the value. Why? Because we are not giving any value here, right? I'm not giving any value. If you're not giving any value, whatever the value that is there in the PY status work earlier, that will be still there. If I'm trying to provide any value here, that value will be overridden, PY status work column will be updated, and it will be showing the reflected value in the second screen. If you are not giving, it will not be, there is nothing to overwrite it. So it will be carrying out the previous value like PY status work. Now if I click on submit button, what it has to do, so on clicking on submit button of the second screen, it has to load this assignment, and in this assignment we are defining one work object status, and that value should be linked to one OOTB property called PY status work, and it will be overwriting with the value what is already there in the clipboard. So as of now, PY status work will be having like this one pending. Now on clicking on submit button, this thing has to be loaded and it will be overwriting with some other value. We can able to see. You click on submit button, we will be getting this value getting updated. So if click on clipboard now, we should be seeing that PY status work OOTB property will be assigned to some other value. So this is the value. PY status work is the OOTB property which is getting overridden with the value as per this assignment. Okay. Now if I close this also, I can simply say that work objects CHG 70 is pending with which one? Is pending with which assignment? So if I click on this here, I can able to see it's pending with the third stage. I mean pending approval. Whatever the thing if we are defining here, we can able to see it directly. Even in the database also we can able to see the same. Okay. Understood, right? So if you understand this, then we can able to work on some practicality. How can we create the new work object status? Suppose if you want to design something related to your project, then we can able to design our own work object status, and how we can able to give this to the particular assignments. Okay. Suppose if I'm not defining anything here, I'm reverting back. So understanding, no, both of you? Matulani?
Yes.
So I'm submitting it. Now if I run the new work object ID, what should be the status? If there is no value given, the work object ID status like PY status work value will be given as new. So if you click on submit also, all the time this value will be new. Initially, this new value will be assigned to one property called PY status work, and if we click on submit button, whatever the second section that is being loaded, since there is no value given for that, there is no chance of overwriting the value what is there in PEGA status work. So all the time new value only will be there. Suppose if I want to have one customized value and that has to be visible, sorry, that has to be common across all my sections. So if this is my structure and I want to have one status like claims processing. So if this is my status, for if I want to add one status like claims processing or CHG claims, so that should be my work object status, and if this should be common for each and everywhere, then we can able to directly define it in the start shape. If we define any of the status in the start shape, on clicking here we can able to see. If we define anything here, then this will be applicable to all the assignments. I'm saving it. Now run this. So PY status work value will be updated in the start shape only, and here we will be getting this value, and on clicking on submit button, since we are not providing any of the status, then there is no chance of updating this value. So all the time this value only will be there. Suppose here in third screen or fourth screen, if you're trying to add anything, the value will be overwritten. Whatever the value we are giving this start shape, that value will be overwritten with the value here. Okay, PY status work property value will be here, this whatever the thing we are defining here, and the same value will be shown here, and the same value will be shown here also, and the value will be getting updated in this screen. Okay, it will be updated whatever the status value we are providing it here. Suppose if the last assignment has not been provided with anything, then it has to carry the same thing what it is being set in the screen number 3. So this is the importance of work object status. So now if I want to create any of the new work object status, I can able to do that. Okay, so these are all OOTB work object status, and if I want to create anything, I have to create one rule. So there will not be any rule like work object status. Okay, if I want to create any such rule like work object status, there will not be any such rule. For that, open any of the OOTB thing and open this. So here we can able to see this particular OOTB work object status, right? So based on this, we can able to identify its rule type. If I'm trying to open flow rule, by just seeing the screen, can we able to say the name of this particular rule? We can able to see it here. Okay, for every rule on the screen, we can able to see its rule name. So let me open section. So by just seeing this, I can able to identify what rule it is. So it is a section rule. That is what it is showing here. Open any rule. Similarly, whatever the rule you are opening for this work object status, it is having some value. What is the value? Field value. Okay. So the rule responsible for holding this work object status is field value. So in order to create any of the customized value for the work object IDs, you have to create the field value, and that field value has to be linked to PY status work. Okay. So let me close all this now. So the rule that is responsible for showing the work object status is field value. And now I'm trying to open another value, another OOTB work object status, something like this. Open here. So this is also field value, meaning all the work object status values are field values. And if we closely observe, all the field values will be assigned to one property called PY status work. So we will not be finding this kind of ID anywhere. So everywhere we'll be finding the direct rule name. So if I open flow rule, this is the ID for this particular rule. And if I open section, so the name what we're defining will be the section, will be the ID for this one. And now whatever the work object status name we are providing, it will be stored with an ID called PY status work dot the label name. Even if you are creating one customized or one user defined work object status, the value will be shown here, but it will be appended to this value. So ultimately all the work object ID status identifier should be like PY status work dot the label what we are providing. Even for this also. Okay, so this will be the common one all the time. So field value is not completely dedicated for the work object status. I can able to make use of this field values in many ways also. In this case, I am trying to make use of this field value in order to set this value, in order to make use of work object status. So that is the reason all the work object status should be linked to one property called PY status work, right? So work object status value will be defined like this. ID value will be like PY status work dot this one. Okay, clear? So by just seeing to identify that there will be one field value that has to be created, and that has to be, if that has to be considered as a work object status, it should be linked to PY status work. Yes, Tulani or Uma is asking. Someone is asking, right? Any doubts?
No, Chandra.
Okay, okay. So if you want to add any customized value for the work object status, what we have to do first? First, we have to create the field value. Field value will be there under data model category, just like creating property only. And that field value, if you want to make that field value to act as a work object status, then you have to link that to PY status work. Okay, if you don't link also, you cannot, if you don't link, you cannot able to make this as an work object status for that. So blindly remember, all the work object status identity will be this one, PY status work dot the label name what we are providing. Okay, so now let us work on one small requirement. The requirement here is, if I run the work object ID now, so initially I have to give if I run the work object ID, if we are in the screen number 1, that is assignment number 1, I have to have the work object status as customer details pending. Okay, on clicking on submit button, I should be showing the status as nominee details pending, and this one for the treatment details pending, and this is for the hospital details pending. Okay, so this should be the work object status for me, and at the end, in the end shape, I want to add the status like resolved completed. Got my point, right? So this is our requirement. So my requirement here is, here you should be showing in the 4 screens, I should be showing some customized values like customer details pending, nominee details pending, and in the end shape I have to show resolved completed, and in the start shape I want to add like open. Okay, so for that I have to create 4 different work object IDs. Work object status I have to create. So why? Because open and resolve completed will already be there. If we double click here, so these are all the OOTB, right? Open is already done, is already existing. I can able to make use of this open in this shape, and here for the end shape I can able to go for resolve completed. Okay, so these two are already OOTB. I need not create again. Now I have to create 4 different work object status, and those are to be linked here. So for that, let me create 4 different field values, and based on that we have to assign each one for each thing. So in order to create work object status, we have to create field values. Right click, and one more thing. If we closely observe, all the field values will be starting with PY status work dot label, right? This is already seen, and all the work object status by default will be stored into work dash class. Okay, we can able to have it created in a framework or implementation also, but this seems to be very generic. Wherever we run the work object ID, either in the framework or implementation, I can able to make use of this. So that is the reason PRPC recommends us to create this work object status in the work dash. Open any of the work object, it will be creating it in the work dash. Even we'll be following the same. Let us follow the same. So I'm trying to create one new field value under data model category. I'm creating like customer details pending. Okay, what should be the field name? Field name should be PY status work. So if you click on down arrow, if it is not prompting, make sure you copy it as it is. So py capital S and status work. Okay, let me create it in the framework context, create and open. So here we can able to see this is the field value and this is the name, and this field value has been assigned to py status work, meaning this will be automatically considered as an work object status. Okay, just save this. So first field value has been created. I want to save as this one to second value, like nominee details pending. Save this. Okay, we are creating directly here, right? Let me show you how to create it in the work. It will be working now also. So I'm trying to delete this. So I just wanted to follow the process. That's it, nothing more than that. So create data model and field value, right? So I'm giving something like custody details pending. And here I want to use it in the framework context, and I want to create it in the work dash class. So create and open. So it will be created in the work dash class, and this is my label name, and this is the property linked to that. Automatically this will be considered for the work object status only. And now save as this to nominee details pending. So we have created 4 different work object status, and these are to be called in that particular assignment shapes. So open that flow rule, and now here it should be like an open status, right? So double click on this and give the value like open. We have already one OOTP. I'm selecting it. Submit this one. Now if I just click on save, for all the things will be getting open only, because we will not be overwriting the value of py status work. So I'm trying to add the second work object status. So that is customer details pending, right? I'm trying to add it. Submit this, and here nominee details pending now. In the real-time projects also we'll be seeing the floral with multiple flags, red color flags and the track flags. So this is nominee details pending. So if the flag has been identified, then we can able to see that there is some status given for that. By just seeing the flow itself, we can able to identify. Let me add here like resolve completed. Submit this, draft off, and save it now. from the new case ID. And now initially PY status work value will be given with open. Initially it will be set to new, and from that it will be changed to open because of the start shape what we are providing, and then it will be again updated with this value. So that is the reason we'll be getting this one. Now if we click on clipboard, we'll be getting this value. If you open the database also, then by this time for this particular work object ID, we will be having the value like customer details pending. Okay, if I click on submit now, let me show you that also. From yesterday it did not load. So yesterday by this time I have queried something, no? So from yesterday it is still like that only. So if I just click on submit now, POA status work value has to be updated to this one. Okay, all the time one property should be holding only one value. So that value will be keep on changing, but it cannot able to hold multiple values. So now POA status work value will be changed with this value, and if I click on submit, it will be again changing. So if you go to the last screen, we'll be having this one. Suppose now if I close this work object ID in the database, if I'm trying to just check for this particular record like CHG 63 or 73, CHG 73, I can simply say that this is pending with the hospital details pending. I need not open the flow, or I need not uh, I can able to check the same in the database also. Why? Because there will be one common column, right? PY status work, there will be one there should be one heading for that, and like PYID CHE73 should be having the PY status work value as this one. So we need not begin the flow and we need not check for each and every screen. By just seeing this, we can able to see like this is pending with so and so. Even in the real cases also, if some customers is requesting for their status of the work object ID, suppose if they have applied for a credit card and if they want to just check for the status, what they will be doing, they will be calling to the customer care number, and customer care the representative will be the real user of this particular application who are working in that organization, right? So they will be the real users, and they will be just opening the they will be just checking for the work object ID, I mean the reference number what they are given for him, and based on that they can able to identify directly from here only. They can able to say it's still pending with the doctor, or it's still pending with manager or anything. So based on the status they can able to have this done very quickly. This will be very easy for the tracking purpose. Clear, right? Any doubts, both of you?
Clear.
Uma, you also know?
Yes.
So once this is done, we'll work with obj open by hand, where we can able to go for PZ key, and in that requirement we'll be just pulling out all the pending work object IDs from the database and we'll be updating the values. So that is the reason we are having work object discussion now. So that will be a bit complicated as per your knowledge so far. We'll try to understand, no problem. So here we can able to see, right, there is one column called PY status work, and here we can able to see all the values showing as new. So these are all the work object IDs I have created with the status as new. If we scroll down, so this is the work object ID I have just stopped here. So CAG 73, there should be PY ID for this like CAG 73. and here I can able to identify that is still pending with the hospital date pending only. So if in the fourth screen, if I just click on submit button, what should be the status turned to resolve completed? Let me refresh it. So by just seeing the database, we can simply see if we just know the PYID. So here we can able to see this. So this has been changed to resolve completed. So that is the importance of the work object status. We can able to use this for tracking. Okay. So now we'll be working on one requirement where all the work object status which are with new, I want to mark this to resolve completed. Okay, resolve something like resolve hard code complete or something like this. So if any of the work object status still pending in your organization from past many days, and if you want to hard close all those, then what we'll be doing, we'll be pulling all the records which are having PO status work as new, and I'll be updating each and everything. So that is my requirement now. So my requirement here is I have to run one activity using which I should be pulling all the work object status, work object IDs whose status is still with new. Ultimately, I should be having all the work object ID status as closed. I should be closing all the pending work object IDs. So that is my requirement. So this will be the real-time requirement also. Most of the business, most of the projects will be having this. Okay. If I want to close all the pending work object IDs as per the business requirement, what we have to do, we have to pick only the pending work object IDs or the work object, or the status showing as new. We'll be getting certain set of results, and on top of that, I want to make all this status as resolve completed or resolve closed, something like this, any meaningful value. Okay, so that is our requirement. So now I'll show you how to create one activity and how to have this updated for each and every record and how to commit it. I'll show you now. So the requirement here is first we have to pull all the records from the particular table which is starting with new work object status. Let us follow the same thing what PRPC is doing. So if I just click on this, okay, I'll be getting all the instances of the particular work objects, right? If I just click on this, I'll be getting all the work object instances of this one. Similarly, if I want to get all the lists, all the details of the particular class which are having work object status as new or something, okay, then first I have to get the obj browse data, then I have to get the multiple records. There I'll be putting some condition, that's secondary. Initially we have to go for obj browse. Similarly, PRPC is also doing the same. If I just click on this, PRPC will be running one obj browse query and it will be pulling out all the results, right? And now for Sage is 73, if you want to make any modifications from the user interface perspective, what we'll be doing, I'll be just clicking on this. Then what PRPC has to do, PRPC has to write one obj open or obj open by handle. This is just to pull the single instance, right? So it has to either go for obj open or obj open by handle. Okay. So once this record, once the data has been obtained, we have to give some values. We have to enter some values, and clicking on submit button, what it will be doing on entering some values, what it is doing, it is performing some property set. Okay, it is performing some property set. Based on this property set, if I just click on submit, the value will be automatically updated to the database. Clear what it is doing? Like after property set, obj save has been happening, and then after committing is happening. So this is what PRPC is following. So in order to update any value from the database, from the user interface, what it has to do, initially it has to perform obj browse. Understanding, right? Initially it will be performing obj browse just to pull all the records. And here for each and every record, if you want to perform any kind of operations, suppose if you want to set PO status work, then what we'll be doing, we'll be pulling out particular record From user interface, we cannot able to set it. That's secondary. If you want to set any of the values, we'll be clicking on that. Then PRPC will be using obj open by handle or obj open. Then after, whatever the values we are entering in that, it will be in comparison like property set. Once the values are being assigned, then if I just click on submit button, we'll be having PRPC will be performing obj save on top of this. So obj save will be happening, and then after data will be reflected in the database, right? Then commit is also happening. Understood? So what PRPC doing in this process is initially it will perform obj browse. We'll be getting multiple records. Let us say I'm getting 100 records, and out of which it will be taking the first record. The same thing what we are doing. Now clicking on this, I'll be getting many results, and if I want to do the same kind of operation, I have to click on the first one, enter some value, then click on submit. Then I have to come back here, open the second one, do the same, and come back to the same screen, open the third one. Likewise, I have to do it for each and everything. So PRPC, what it is doing, initially it will perform obj browse. Then on the first record, it is performing obj open or obj open by handle. Anything is fine if you know PZ dynasty. Then after, what it is trying to do, it is trying to perform property set. Getting my point, right? So whatever the values we are trying to enter, that has to be updated in the database. That is my requirement. So I'll be trying to do property set. So once the property set is done, on clicking on submit button, what it has to do, it has to store into the database, meaning obj save has to be performed. Okay, and after this it has to be reflected in the database, right? So commit has to be done. So PRPC will be performing these many steps for the first record. Once this is done, we can able to see the data inserted or updated in the database perfectly. Then after, what it has to do, we have to pick up the second record, and in the second record also I'll be doing the same, and in the third record also I'll be doing the same. Likewise, we have to do for each and every record of this particular obj browse. So that is the thing PRPC is following. So you understood the behavior, right? What PRPC is doing internally. Did you understand the steps? How did we write this?
Yes, Chandra.
Uma, you also know?
Yeah, yes, Chandra.
So on clicking here, it has to get multiple records, that is with obj browse. And if I want to make modifications to any of the record or all the records, first I have to pick up the first record. Then PRPC will be performing obj open by handle. Then here it will be, here we can able to make the necessary modifications. This is just similar to property set. And on clicking on submit button, details are to be submitted in the database. This is just like an obj save. Then after commit, once this is completely done, we'll be going back to the same screen and we'll be pulling out the second record and like third record. So this is how PRPC is following. So we're trying to understand the behavior of PRPC, what it is doing. Now our requirement here is, I want to pull out all the records from this particular class. Okay, I'll be getting all the work object IDs from this class where PY status work is equal to new. Okay, so once I get all the records, I have to pick up the first record, just like here only. I have to pick up the first record, then I have to update the PY status work column to something like resolve completed. So that is with the property set. Then after, I have to perform obj save on top of this. Then I have to give the commit method. So meaning this particular first record value will be updated, PY status work value will be updated to resolve completed. So that is done. Then again, I have to run the activity for the second record. Okay, ultimately obj saving meaning you have to go for activities only, right? So I will be picking up the second record from the obj browse. I have to do the same, and similarly I have to pick the third record from the obj save. I have to do the same, obj browse, sorry. I have to do the same. Likewise, if I'm having some thousands of records or hundreds of records, as per px result count, there will be one OOTP property like px result count. As per the px result count, I have to perform the same kind of operation for those many times. Then only we can able to get this value updated for each and every record. Okay, if you are clear with this, we'll be writing one activity and I'll show you how to make this executed using looping. Clear, right? You understood the requirement and the approach what we're trying to do, both of you?
Yes.
Yes, Chandra.
Yeah. So let me create one new activity, and here, as I told you, if you want to click on the first record, I can able to go for obj open or obj browse also. So whatever the records I'm trying to pull using this obj browse, I'll be getting all the 100 records, all the pending records. There I can able to get the PZ key column, so PZ key value from that record data also. So for that I'll be having PZ key, and then I can able to directly go for obj open. So sorry, obj open by handle. So in this whole process we can able to get the same using obj open or obj open by handle also. Let us work on obj open by handle. So now I'm trying to create one new activity. I'm giving something like update work object status. So click on create and open. So first what I have to do, I have to go for obj browse. What PRPC is doing, I'm also trying to do the same. So obj browse. For obj browse, I need not go for page new method, right? Why? Because in this only I have to define one page. That is the concept. We need not go for again new page. So I want to pull multiple records from one of the class. This is the class, right? So I'm trying to give the same class name. So obj browse data I want to pull from this class, and what should be the name? So give something like this for object list. Okay. Now I have to, what are all the fields we want to get it from here. So from this table I will be having multiple properties, right? And what are the data you are expecting? I want only py status work data. So the thing what I'm trying to update for, and I can able to go for PZNS key also. If I have PZNS key ready, then I can able to go for obj open by handle. So I'm trying to pull PZNS key values also. So if I have PZNS key value recorded for me, then I can able to go for obj open by handle. So that is the concept. So I'm just saving it as of now here, and let me check whether it is working fine or not.
Second, 1 second, Chandra. You have changed page name and OBJ class, then
What's that? I didn't get you.
uh,
You're talking about this one?
yeah. Sorry. Can you tell me after page name and OBJ class, you change some people work status, right? Can you
Yeah,
tell me
this
when
one.
page?
Yeah. So why did we give this one? So that is your question, right?
After
Okay.
OBJ class, where we moved on?
I did not know anything. I have just given these values only.
These two values, one is page name and OBJ class.
So obj class will be given. I didn't get your question, Uma. So from where did we select this value? That is your question, right? Or
Yes.
okay. So these are all OOTB properties, no? So by default, we are calling this activity from this framework work class. So default, we will be getting all the properties populated from this class only. If you come down, there will be something called more option. So select the more. If we select more, we will be getting all the properties from its parent class also. So we'll be getting the property suggestions from the work dash cover dash, and similarly its parent like work dash, then after its parent like at the base class also. If we click on more, we can able to see all the properties from its parent class also, either directly connected or pattern connected also. So that's your
We
question, no?
didn't assign any values here, right? So we just use only page name and OBJ class, and we just looked on the one classes, right?
Yes.
Okay, got it. Sorry.
So this is the property. Okay. So what I'm trying to do here is, there is already one table in the database, and from there I want to pull out all the records whose value, I mean all the not all the records. I want to get py status work and pzns key values of all the records. So in the database we can able to see all this. We'll be having almost like 100 or 150 records, I should be getting PY status work and PZ dynasty columns only. I need not pull blob data, or I need not go for pulling like PYID. I'm not pulling all those. So why I'm pulling this PY status work is I want to get these values updated, right? So for sure I have to go for this property. And why I'm pulling PZ dynasty here? So for OBJ open by handle, I want to have one value that has to be like PZ dynasty. So I'm trying to get the PZ dynasty for each and every record. Okay. So now if I run this, click on clipboard, there should be one page like work object list. So we're getting multiple results, right? We're getting almost like 76 results. So by default, it will be pulling out all the results since there is no condition. You can able to see PV status work as new and PZ dynasty. This is the PZ dynasty of the work object ID, right? So here we can able to see this particular PV status work of this work object ID is takes details pending, but I need not make any modifications to this record. My requirement here is I want to make modifications to the records whose work object status is new. So meaning I have to make few modifications to the OBJ browse where it has to pull only the values related to new status work object ID. Okay, so let me put the conditions here. I'm giving something like new. So not value is equal to something like this. So if I give it like here, PRPC has to initially get all the records, then after it has to filter the records which are starting with new. So this is already we have discussed about OBJ browse. The next thing is bit challenging. So let me run it now. So here we can able to see only 70 results. So meaning it has filtered out all the records which are not starting with new. Okay. So once we get all the data into my work page, the next thing what we have to do is what PRPC will be doing. It will be picking up the first record. Then after it will be going for OBJ open. Then after this value is to be set, right? So this is for the first record. Once this is done, it is again performing the same for the second one. Likewise, it is doing for the third. So this set has to be repeated for all the records. For whatever the records we got it here, it has to be performed continuously for all the things. So for that, we can directly go for looping. So looping is the concept where we can able to make this particular step to be executed for those many times. Okay, I'm just clicking on looping. So looping meaning how many times it has to be looped. It has to be looped based on the pages, based on the embed page of this particular class. So it has to just check in the clipboard. So this has to just check in the clipboard for this class, and it has to pull out and it has to execute this for those many pages. So each and every record will be considered as in one separate page, right? So meaning if I have 10 records, it should be considered like in 10 different pages. So this should be repeated for 10 times. Okay. So on what page this has to be repeated? So I have just given the class name. So what should be the page name? On what page it has to be repeated those many times? So here I have to give the step page name. So the OBJ browse results will be stored here, right? .px results. Okay. So this is my thing. So work object list .px results. This is the thing where we will be using for the activities or clipboard pages. So if I want to have multiple record, if I want to have the values for each and every page of this particular page list, then we should be defining like this. Okay, so this has to be defined in the pages and classes. You understanding, no? Both of you getting confused anywhere? If you're getting confused, I'll start fresh tomorrow. No issues for me. I want you to be understand by in this. That's it. Understanding, no?
Yes, we
Mark,
are. Yeah.
This is already we have discussed. Okay. So each and every record or each and every page of this particular page list, it should be looping. So that is the thing here. So that is the concept. And here I have to make this particular step to be executed for multiple times. That is the concept we go for looping. And here within this, I have to write all these steps. Okay, so just add one child step. So on right click on the number 2. Okay, step number 2, right click there, and we'll be getting this option. Click on add child. So it will be adding like a child within this step 2. So step 2 will be executed for each and every record. If I have 10 records, step number 2 has to be executed for 10 different times. And what are all the things that has to be updated within this, that is secondary. So step 2 has to be executed for those many records as per the obj browse. So obj browse results will be stored into this page, and based on this it can able to identify the count, and those many times it has to execute. Okay, so the next thing here is we have to go for obj open. So whenever we are going for obj open, for sure we will be going for page new, right? So let me create one new page. So I'm giving something like temp page, and if we're using any of the page, even that has to be defined in the pages and classes, else PRPC will not understand. So to which class it will be referring? So I'll be having this page new created, then after I'll be having this property set, everything, right? So the property set or the obj set, this has to be performed on the framework where class only. So this has to be referred to the same class. Okay, now click here and click on add step. This will be adding a step parallel to this one. Now I can able to go for obj open or obj open by handle. Let us use obj open by handle. So if I'm going for obj open by handle, it has to be run on the same page. If I'm going for obj open by handle, I have to pass the PZ key. So instance handle meaning PZ key. Technically, we may call this as an instance handling in this prospective, and all other places will be calling this as an PZ key. So the PZ key has to be passed as an instance handle to this. So what should be the instance handle for the first record? So the instance, I mean the PZ key of the first record will be this one. Okay, similarly for second thing will be this one. Since I'm trying to make this particular step to be executed as part of looping, I cannot able to give PZ key hard-coded value. Okay, I'm giving something like looping, meaning if I'm having 70 results as per this page has to be executed for 70 times. So this step has to be executed for 70 times. All the time, if this has to be executed, then this has to be written with some generic code. If I'm performing like, if I'm giving like PZ as this one, what it will be doing, although if it is executing for 70 times, all the time it will be updating this value only. Why? Because we're trying to hard code this value. Okay, PZ for first record will be this one, and for the third one will be this one, and for the next one will be like this. So I cannot able to go for hard coded values. Instead, what I can able to do is I can directly give one generic message. So how can we get this PZ key? Work object list dot px results of 4 dot PZ key. Correct. Similarly, for this one, work object result dot this page name dot px results of 3 dot PZ key. And for here, 1 dot PZ key. Correct. So in this way, I have to define this particular page and define it here in some generic way. So for that, what I can able to do is I should not be copying one. If I just copy, it will be working only for the first one. And let me show you how to give one, how to give the number. Dot. So this is clear, right? As of now. So the instance handle should be the value what is there in the PZ key. So here I'm trying to pass this as an instance handle. So this should be like a generic all the time. For that, we have to define like current, everything in the caps. So I'm copying it and pasting it here for your reference. So if I try to give it like this, so for the first page execution, this will be considered as an 1. Okay, and for the second page execution, this will be considered as an 2. So all the time, if you're trying to execute for the 70th page, this will be considered as an 70. So worklist.px results of 70.pzdns will be having its own pzdns key as the instance handle. Okay, so this is what we should be using. And there will be something called lock and release on commit also. So if I just click on this, if we are performing obj open on work object id number 1, let us say, or the first thing, then it has to be logged off. So PRPC is performing some operations onto the particular work object ID, and no other operator has to parallelly work on that. So unless the data is getting completely done, committed, then only lock has to be released. So that is the concept here. So lock meaning this will be logged off, and release on commit meaning once the data is getting committed into the database, then only lock has to be released from the for the particular work object ID. Clear, right? So once the obj open by handle is also done, what should be the next step? So once we get the data onto this particular page, I have to perform the property set. So add step, property set, and onto this page. Here what should be the value? I should be setting like py status work. Yes, resolved ch just for our identification. I'm giving like this. Okay, once the property set has been done, I have to go for obj save. So obj save has to be performed onto this page. Once this is done, I can able to go for commit. So commit will be like an saving the data to the database, right? It has to push all the data from differ queue to the database. So if I'm trying to give commit at each and every place, then it will be like a bit performance less for the PRPC perspective. If I just click on right now, or if I'm going for commit method for each and every record, then it will be like a bit complicated process. Instead, I can able to have this done at a time. So click here and click on add step. There should be one step added parallel to the step number 2, and here I'm trying to give commit method. So if I'm trying to commit this at the end of my execution, then all at a time, all the records which are there in the differ queue will be pushed at a time. Okay, so that is the thing I'm trying to give commit outside. If you give commit inside also, no issues, but it has to perform commit for each and every record. So understood now? Then after I can able to remove the page from the clipboard, that's secondary. So now I'm saving this. Summary is valid expression. Okay, so now run it. So run this also. So this is successfully done. And if it is not updating in the database, we'll just check in the, we'll just use tracer. So that is done, right? Committing is also done. Now let me refresh this. So we can able to see PY status work has been updated to each and every record, which is of status new. Correct, right? So if it is of not new, then it should not be affecting those. So these are all not new status, so it is not affecting those. So only the work pending status like new, it is getting updated. So this will be done using obj open by handle. You can able to go for obj open also, and this will be the faster one. Clear, both of you? So in the next class again I will give a quick recap. Clear now, both of you?
Yes, Shalini.
Yeah, Uma, you also right?
Yeah.
Yes, we will discuss again tomorrow's class, and I'll show you how to use the parameters and how to pass those here. Okay?
Okay.
Yeah, okay. I have to join another call now. So that's why I'm rushing. Okay, thank you. Yeah.